is it okay to talk about why Japanese people have a hard time speaking English? Today, I want to talk about this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last lesson, but anyways, let's talk about this. So I think one of the reasons Japanese people have a hard time speaking English is that we don't have to study English, because I think I might have talked about this, but Japanese is the language spoken in Japan, and even if we can't speak English, we can, make a living, we can enter school, we can get a job, and we can survive.
Right.
So there's no necessity. So I feel like almost all Japanese people are not really passionate about studying English, and they just study English for fun, or they just study English as a hobby. So these might be the reasons that they can't express themselves and they have a hard time like learning English.
Hmm.
This is one of the reasons. So what do you think about why Japanese people have a hard time speaking English?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you. For a lot of them, there's just no necessity.
Mhm.
So there's no need or motivation. Yeah, there's no motivation because there's no need for it.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I think we started to get into it too last time, but I think it's
Yeah.
just like a cultural difference. If you compare Japan to like China, for example, I think Japanese people are a lot more shy and
Yeah.
maybe reserved and maybe a little bit more self-conscious about their English abilities, so they're less likely to put themselves out there to speak in a language that's not their native language, you know.
Yeah,
Like
that's
like
true.
it's I think it's already not very common for Japanese people to talk to strangers in general, right?
Yeah.
And then if you add the layer on top of that, like they probably will have to talk to strangers who are also foreigners,
Mhm.
then they'll have to make
Mhm.
friends or whatever. But so that's like an entire another level on top of it. Like
Yeah.
now, not only are they having to kind of talk to people,
Mhm.
which maybe they already don't do a whole lot of anyway, but then now it also has to be foreign people in a foreign language. So that's like that's a
Uh,
lot. That's a lot, right? That's asking a lot of people. So
yeah, I know what
I
you're
think
saying.
I think that's kind of a big part of it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think most Japanese people feel much pressure. They're under much pressure when they speak English.
Right,
I
exactly.
noticed that.
Yeah.
You might have noticed this because, you lived in Japan and you have talked with many people here, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. And I mean, I felt the same way when I was in language school.
Mm.
I felt really shy about speaking Japanese at
Same
first.
here.
And then you just kind of have to get used to it. You kind of have to just bite the bullet and just speak and not be afraid to embarrass yourself or say something
Mhm.
wrong, because at the end of the day, it's like there's no reason why a Japanese person or anyone, should be fluent in a foreign language. So there's no reason to be ashamed if you make a mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's still scary, and yeah, but once you get over that, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, making mistakes is very common. So the more mistakes you make, the better your language is going to be. So I think it's very important to make many mistakes,
Yeah,
as many
e-
mistakes as possible.
every mistake is a learning opportunity.
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
So, language learning is a long journey. So you make a lot of mistakes and then you fix them. And over time, your language is gradually getting better. So, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. And even now, I make mistakes. And, earlier I made mistakes. And I think this is very common. So, but
Right.
I feel like, some people are very, very like afraid of making mistakes. But I was in the same situation, so I read to them. I know why they are afraid of like making mistakes. And
Yeah.
some people make fun of them just because they make like grammar mistakes. So I think this hinders people from trying to learning something new.
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah. And here, just you don't want to say trying to learn something new. I think you said learning, but
Ah,
yeah.
sometimes I speak without thinking anything and words come out of my mouth. That might be the reason I say
But
something weird. This hinders people from trying to learn something new. Okay.
I remember that too, though. Like, I would speak Japanese a lot for my job when I was a performing ninja, and I obviously I knew that my Japanese wasn't perfect, and I knew that I was making mistakes. But then sometimes I would like go back and see like a video because we would
Mhm.
have like videos of our performances or whatever, or yeah, things like that. And then sometimes I would go back and see the video, and
Mhm.
I would just be like, oh, I would be embarrassed. I would be like, oh, I made more mistakes than I thought, like I just
Uh,
didn't even realize sometimes until I went back and watched it again, and then I like hear myself speaking, and I was like, oh, that was a mistake, And then
yeah, I feel
it
you.
was
I
like
feel
I didn't even know that I made that mistake, but now listening to it, I'm like, oh, so yeah, it's easy. It's easy for that to happen, but that's natural and it's normal. So
Yeah, it's normal. It's very common. I feel the same way too because every time, right after I talk with you online, I think I talked about this about, that I add subtitles to to all of my videos. So, I
hmm
check my videos. So I always notice that I make many mistakes. So I
yeah,
understand what you're saying.
yep, definitely.
Yeah, so okay. So do you have any other reasons? Do you think of any other reasons why Japanese people have a hard time speaking English? Actually, I have another reason. So
hmm
is it okay to talk about this? I feel
It
like
is.
I'm rambling this time. So
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
okay, so the second reason is Japanese economy. Is this word correct? Japanese economy in Japan.
Yeah, those are all correct. You could say but yeah, the Japanese economy sounds good, or just
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Japan's economy either way.
Okay, thank you so much. What I wanted to say was that Japan's economy was pretty big. So the population of Japan is more than 120 million. So
hmm
it's pretty big. The US is much bigger than Japan though. But anyway, Japan is pretty big. So I feel like many companies make product or service for Japanese people. And of course, it depends on the companies. So some people try to make service and products for like people in other countries, but companies can make big profits by selling their products and service in Japan. So yeah, I think this is one of the reasons. But talking about like for example South Korea, they make service for other countries. So I think they need to learn English to sell
hmm
their product and service. I think K-pop is a good example. They
hmm
need to learn English because they need to get more fans from all over the world. But
Right.
talking about like idol groups such as, have you ever heard of like AKB48
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
46? I think they don't try to learn English because they just want to get Japanese fans. So I think this might be the reasons. But yeah, what do you think about this?
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't ever really thought about that, but that's a
Mhm.
good point because like I don't know a ton of K-pop, but I know, like Blackpink and like BTS, for example.
Mhm.
To my knowledge, like all of the songs that I know by
Mhm.
them, they sing like all in English.
Mm.
And now that I'm thinking about it, there are a lot of Japanese bands and idol groups that I think they sing mostly in Japanese. They have like a little bit of English here and
Yeah,
there, which is very common for a lot of Japanese music, I think.
yeah, that's right.
But most of their stuff is still in Japanese. You're right. I think that's a good point. And then
Yeah.
and then that just sort of perpetuates it, right? Like then because those groups they have huge influence. So
Mhm.
if all these fans, like South Korean people, are big fans of BTS and they
Mhm.
hear BTS singing in English all the time,
Mhm.
then they're going to learn English just
Yeah.
from listening. But then they also might be inspired, like, oh, yeah, I want to learn more English because BTS
Uh,
sings in English. And then that just becomes part of the culture there. Whereas, again, yeah, if in Japan, like most of the music is still just enjoyed in Japanese, then that's one less opportunity for people to want to start to learn English. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think, yeah, you know, like I don't know anything about BTS. I just know the name of the group, but I think they encourage Korean people to study English, maybe. Yeah, because they're cool. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point that you brought
Yeah.
up. And yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's move on
hmm
to the next one. So this is the third reason. I've already talked about this. About some people point out other people's mistakes. So this discourages some people to study English. What do you think? Have you ever like been pointed out by other people?
Probably. Well, you mean like when I'm speaking in Japanese, or like just in
Yes,
general
yes.
here?
When you were speaking Japanese, this might be rare, but some people might make fun of other people when the language learner tries to say something, because language learners definitely make mistakes. Yeah, so what do you think about that?
Personally, when I was in Japan, like speaking Japanese,
Mhm.
it was very rare that anyone would ever even say anything if I made a mistake. The only thing I can think about is like some of my friends, my close friends and coworkers,
Mhm.
they would kind of laugh and make fun of me a little bit, but like in a good way, like in a friendly way if I made a mistake, because we were laughing together.
Mhm.
And I would usually know. Like I remember one time I accidentally said, I was trying to say like futsu janai,
普通じゃない。
but I accidentally said futsukunai. Like I turned it into like an e adjective, like the way you would say atakakunai, or like, but I accidentally said futsukunai.
ああ、mhm.
And then my coworkers and we all laughed about it. Like they were joking about it and stuff. It was in a friendly way, like that we were all having fun,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. But other than that, like other than times like that with my friends and coworkers when they were just sort of having fun with me,
Mhm.
I don't think that anyone ever no one ever made fun of me. I don't think people would ever even point out my mistakes
ああ、mhm.
when I would make them in Japanese. So, yeah.
Good. People around you were nice, so
Yeah, they
good.
were very kind. They were very
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm the same because I don't remember people made fun of me. So I think we are the same, maybe. But I feel like some people are very meticulous about grammar.
Right.
Have you ever heard of the word, like, I don't know how to say it in English, but I think it's called grammar police or something. It's called
Oh, yeah,
文法
yeah.
警察 in Japanese.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
The grammar police, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to hold that thought really quick. I wanted to give you this note
Okay.
a little while ago. I think you said that might discourage people to learn English or to speak
Ah,
English.
from it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I typed that out there. But yes. So there's a term, yeah, grammar police. I've also heard the term grammar Nazi, which is a little bit sketchier because Nazis, that can be offensive. But
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah, like the grammar police or the grammar Nazi, just people who always go out and point out every
Mhm.
single grammar mistake that someone makes. They always have to make a point to
That's
bring
annoying.
it up. Yeah, 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 it is.
I
Yes, it
don't
is.
like those people because I think they're just nuisance. They discourage people from learning a language, so I don't think that's good.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Because that just becomes something a little bit negative, right? Like if you're always pointing out people's mistakes and being like, no, it's this. Yeah. There's a difference, right? There's a difference. It's all in how you say it, too. If you politely say, like, oh,
Mhm.
hey, like, just so it's not this way, it's this way. Or sometimes if you ask permission, I think that's the best way. Just be like, hey, do you mind if I like give you advice or if I give you
Mhm.
my opinion on something? And then if they say yes, then you can be like, oh yeah, so this is the correct way to say it, or blah blah blah. But
I think that's good. They just try to, in that case, they just try to help you and they just
right,
try to give you some tips. But some people sometimes give you unsolicited advice, so that's not what I want.
annoying. Yeah,
Anyway, we are
yeah,
running out of time.
yeah. Is 2 weeks good? 2 weeks from today
Yeah,
again?
in 2 weeks. Probably in two
Cool.
weeks. Thank you so much.
Okay. Cool. All right.
現在、英語コーチングの生徒さんを募集しています。英語学習を頑張っているけど継続することが難しい。英語力が伸び悩んでいる。TOEIC のスコアが頭打ちしている。ぜひこのような方は無料カウンセリングへどうぞ。下の概要欄から申し込むことができます。ぜひ無料カウンセリングでお会いしましょう。